HubSpot built the inbound marketing playbook. They taught an entire generation of marketers how to win at search. But last year, they lost 140 million website visits. Their organic traffic is now down almost 80% from its peak.
And here's the part that should scare everyone listening. It's not because they got worse at marketing. It's because the game changed underneath them. 93% of AI search sessions on Google now end without a single click.
So here's the question that nobody now wants to sit with. If the best content machine in marketing can lose 80% of its visibility in a year, what makes you think your playbook is safe?
Welcome back to Growth Curious by Rosy Finch Method. I'm Jessica Johnson.
And I'm Brittany Mosley. And today we're talking about what actually survives when the machines do the searching.
Let's get into it. Really where I want to start is I want to ask an initial question. HubSpot did everything right by the old rules and still lost. And Google rankings and AI recommendations only overlap about 12%. What actually changed in the last 6 months, and why are most brands still playing the old game?
It's a really interesting thing, and I think everyone's going to know I'm going to say the obvious answer, and that the growth of AI search is what changed in the last 6 months. But it was interesting is how quickly we've adopted AI search as our primary search mechanism now. Instead of using Google just to search for keywords to look what we're looking for, we can now have a more intelligent conversation with technology, and we might not know what we're searching for, and AI can really help us get there now. So, if I'm looking for a particular product and I don't quite know what it's called and don't quite know if it even exists, I can now go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking for this thing that does that. Does that exist? And AI now is doing the searching and finding those results for you and aggregating them across the internet and presenting that data in a really compelling and easy to digest way that makes you feel confident that you have the right answer. So our research behavior has fundamentally just completely shifted at the ease of being able to have a conversation with an agent rather than having to actually do the critical thinking and the work yourself to get to. This is super challenging for brands because, as we know, we've all been playing the SEO game, our search engine optimization, and putting our keywords into, our websites and our landing pages and religiously doing our backlinks. The AI models don't grade that homework the same way. I think that's why so many brands are suddenly being flipped on their head is, you're no longer getting credit as much for what's on your own website as much as you have volume of mentions outside of your site and mentions on social media. Now everyone else talking about you matters exponentially more to that LLM, to that ChatGPT or that Claude, more than anything you will ever find on Google. We've been in an absolute screaming sprint of adopting AI, and brands, 90% of them, HubSpot included, have absolutely not caught up yet.
Right. And I think part of that comes from the change happening so fast. If you were a brand that, has always been paying attention to search because that's the right way to do it, right? You're focused on your results, you're focused on your keywords, and you're focused on creating content that's going to provide, more backup. What are you doing now? Like what should brands be looking at, and what advice would you give for them to start to change their methodology?
You're trying to rank on a ChatGPT or a language learning model like an LLM, like a Claude. That's what we call them. That's the new acronym. You have to focus less on you talking about yourself and more on the word of mouth that is surrounding you, the press and PR that's surrounding you, the places that your content is showing up now becomes exponentially more important. When you look at something like ChatGPT, for example, they very highly rank far above your own site Reddit posts. Reddit suddenly has become this huge source for information and feedback and reviews that, brands usually weren't paying attention to. They sort of saw it as like a quiet conversation hole. And all of a sudden, now Reddit is very heavily directing people's outcomes on ChatGPT. Community management, the ability to create conversation, the ability to create press, being able to, if it's relevant for your industry, ranking on affiliate sites, volume and the quality of that content far outweighs what's happening on your own site.
That makes total sense. And I'm curious how customer reviews come into this as well. So, right, testimonials, you said, are obviously a hugely important component to that. But how much does that really help a brand in comparison to maybe all the other mediums of developing content for a website or creating an affiliate program? Like, tell us about that.
I share this a lot, that AI to me is almost an extension of word of mouth as a category at this point. So when you're talking to a chat GPT or you're talking to a Claude, asking about, what do you think about this brand? You're really trying to have more of a human conversation and inherently trusting what's coming back from that language learning model. And most of us, to be totally honest, aren't checking the sources of where that's coming from. You're just taking it as face value the same way that we normally do with Google, in places and spaces that you aren't necessarily overproducing and promoting. So like now, asking for a review or a nice post on Reddit or a Yelp post or a Google post is suddenly way more important to your ability to be found on a search result with an AI agent before ever having, a video show up on social. If you're posting something on social and you have a bunch of negative comments, that gets read by a chat GPT and that feedback comes back too. If your ad is terrible, somebody's talking about it on Reddit, looking at you, Gwyneth Paltrow, immediately comes back to you in that search result because of the volume. Sure. When we saw this in a McKinsey study recently as well too, they said that brand strategy is now CMO's number one priority, above performance and even above AI. Why is brand, do you think, the thing that makes you findable when an agent is doing the searching instead of a person?
I think it's a great question. And if you're a growth marketer like we are, you're always thinking about how the lead goes to the bottom of the funnel, right? How do we drive that person, that customer, that prospect all the way to get that nugget, like that real lead and deal that flows through? And I think in the back of our minds, when we would be measuring brand, we'd be like, oh my gosh, you can't really measure it. It's difficult. You have to do a brand study. Does this even work? Do we care? And I think we know now more than ever, that the brands that are spending time at the top of their funnel, they're creating brand recognition, brand reviews, brand love, shareability. That is what an AI agent is picking up. That's what they care about, because truly sentiment is what AI can actually pick up. And it can, it can take sentiment across millions of people and give you that little piece of information that, can turn a customer or turn a prospect into a customer. So I do think that a full funnel strategy becomes paramount. And in the brands that we work with, that's who gets rewarded. It's not just we can't get away with one channel strategy anymore. Unfortunately, I hate to say it used to be easier, but it is harder to be noticed now, because you have to spend the money from the top to the bottom and do the extra credit and the extra work to be found.
Yeah. I love that. And I think you're exactly right. I think that for brand marketers, I think this is retribution for brand marketers who were always like, brand matters. And then, right? We talk about this all the time, and AI is creating the exact same outcome where, in performance and growth, we know as growth marketers that if you aren't filling the top of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel sort of optimizes itself into a corner, and that nothing new really comes from your brand. And now being rewarded by creating conversation, by creating cultural moments, suddenly has become, it's like we're living a media mix model, is kind of how it feels to me. Like the contribution of brand is so much more important now.
Living in an MMM, I think a really fascinating component to what we're seeing with clients is, I feel like every conversation that we start talking about social or start talking about content strategy immediately goes into, well, why don't we do an outdoor activation? Why don't we do out of home? And I think that's an incredible topic, because that used to be like when you had mega money, right? And now you're seeing, if you're an Instagram account, we're encouraging you to come up with something that feels different, that is offline, to then create that virality online. And that is also what's being rewarded on AI, in general on AI. So Brittany, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or opinions, but it's the new world.
It's so interesting to see like how media and marketing consumption has shifted so quickly with like this sentiment around AI in culture. Like AI was super cool for a minute. Look at all the cool stuff it can do. It can give me all of the answers, and we see that happening in, search results and outcomes and people not using Google anymore.
Sure.
But we also see this very big push in the creative space and frankly in life, and I think we feel this as well too, to not be looking at it anymore, to say this is too close to real and I'm recognizing that it's not real and I'm having a reaction to that, and now I want to go experience something real. And I think the brands that are really winning at this right now, and it will be a very interesting time, we're filming this around the World Cup, to see how
Totally.
in-person activations perform versus somebody trying to do something in the digital realm. It is it is such an interesting renaissance almost of really cool marketing stuff that we used to want to do that all got killed because of performance media. And now performance media is tanking. So what do we do now? We go back to starting a conversation.
We've done a lot of work in direct mail. It's kind of one of those channels that we always come back to. We always talk about it. And I think a lot of our clients are like, why are you bringing this up again? I think the ROI is between 29 and 161%, which is pretty crazy for one individual channel. And that is 5 to 9 times greater than you're going to see on a digital channel. And I think it all comes down to exactly what we're talking about, which is it removes the noise, right? It allows you to go one-to-one with a consumer, which is a luxury at this point.
Yeah.
That is just not something we see and that you can do unless you're out on the street or delivering a package to somebody, at their doorstep.
So I would love to know, because you sit over our creative team and are the more creative brain on this amazing duo of us. What are some of the cool things that we've seen our clients do that were out of the box or out of the norm, or really disrupting that like online digital presence to get seen or known?
I can give you a few examples. I think lately we've been playing around with well, first of all, it's always video is what must happen. But in terms of shooting said video, you're seeing this with subway talks. You're seeing this with comedians or Coffee and Cars. What is it? Coffee and Cars with Seinfeld. That is an offline experience using video to go online to show somebody offline. And I think that level of recommendation is often what we are sharing with clients. Like, we think you should take a road trip across America in a Sprinter van. Like, that doesn't sound fun maybe for you personally, but you want to get some big bumps in your, awareness levels, as well as the fact that people are going to pay attention to what you're doing. Get in the van and go out and do something different and do the road trip, and don't sit behind your computer or your desk. So.
And I think going to that as well too, what you generate with the offline activation, going back to AI, is you generate press. You generate people talking about you because you're doing something different. You generate social conversation on Reddit, even if it's not 100% positive. If somebody goes and searches, why is this brand on a road trip across the US? That creates immediate brand interest and recognition.
Sure.
That trains the people who are doing different searches that this brand is relevant and it's something worth looking at for future queries.
And I appreciate this conversation, because I think what it comes down to is people and consumers are bored AF. They are so over the same thing happening over and over again, the same conversations happening. We're tired of noise. And I think if to create relevancy, right, to actually go to another level with your brand, it's going to take thinking differently. And that's a core tenet of how we do things and how we approach business. but I think really trying to push our clients and pushing, those that we partner with to kind of get outside that box and actually get off of the computer and think about it from the perspective of somebody living their day to day. That is what's being rewarded. You're seeing that in Coachella. You're seeing that with music festivals across the world. That is what people want. They want to be with other people and experience that offline experience, which of course translates to online, but it definitely allows brands to think and do things at a different level.
Yeah. It's almost as if we've optimized the living experience down to everybody having the exact same experience, and all of a sudden we want those things to be different now.
Right. It's great. Yeah, it is a crazy thing to think about. It's like we wanted to do the over engineered life, right? Like that's the life that I think we grew up with in our careers, and now it's like all about being holistic and all about removing the routine and removing all those things. It's like we're going in circles, I think, at some level.
It's so funny. I think to that point too, I think we talk about this a lot about people being exhausted by AI. And then at the same time, all of us are talking to Chat GPT at 1 a.m. about our major life decisions. So
Sure.
what do you think we're actually getting from these tools? Is it connection, or is it a shortcut to expertise that they haven't built? And then, I think part two of that question is, what does that mean for brands to show up?
I might have, I'm like in an existential crisis about AI
I know.
right now. I think, Brittany, you're the trailblazer. You've been vibe coding for a really long time. You've been building another product that we have in stealth mode, which is coming out soon. I think I've come along on that journey, but now it's been 9 months. So the evolution is so fast now with what's really going on in AI. And I think what I'm seeing is people are fatigued. That, it's like the best C- players dream to have an AI agent because it allows you to just cruise. I mean, ask it questions. It always agrees with you, gives you answers. And I think it's honestly, super dangerous. I think it's really dangerous for brands if they're not spending the time to invest in their people and in their teams to get guidebooks and rails around how to use AI. I think that's number one. I think the consumer's fatigued about hearing about it. I think businesses are fatigued about how to use it. I think everyone's getting over it before it even becomes the thing. And I do think we've turned the corner where people are like, well, AI, there's no computer cooking my dinner or paying my bills. So, why do I really care about this? So I think I don't think it's as positive the sentiment as it was maybe 9 months ago. I think it's changed.
Yeah, I think the other, like, as we talk about, I know you and I talk about AI at Rosy Finch a lot, and what does that mean? And a core tenet that we have of AI is that the AI is not allowed to replace your thinking, and that you can have a conversation with it to help further and challenge your own strategic thoughts. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to justify the work that comes out. Otherwise, we're just letting AI give us the same answer that it's already learned from everybody else using it.
And I think I'll tell you where I love it. And I'll tell you where this is like Jess's hot takes about AI. I'm so opinionated about this topic right now. I love it in the creative realm because if you can get your badass creative team to learn how to use it, it can make you go way faster. But I still don't believe that it has the level of proficiency to do things like editing or copywriting or mimicking human behavior. Like we have a client that we worked with that couldn't get their logo to be straight using their AI, tool that they're using. That's a lot. You need a human and their eyeballs to look at that. And I think that's the client learned that, we learned that, and I think we felt very, I guess, excited to know that there's a bit that the heavy lifting that the human still has to do.
I think in that as well too is that, one thing that we see is with a lot of clients or prospective clients or other clients or on LinkedIn as well too, the output of AI reads exactly the same for everybody unless you give it good input. And I think for, a creative team, asking AI, hey, generate me a commercial is not the same as having, a multi-week conversation across 10,000 prompts and telling it what you do and don't like and telling it, what this color is wrong and this person has 6 fingers. Like we have to become almost expert prompters and more articulate in how to create our vision for that tool to really be used successfully.
Totally. Yeah, I had a great conversation with a bunch of folks, parents actually, about this topic over drinks. And I think the profoundly interesting piece is that it always comes down to the humanities, right? Like we don't want to replace artists. We don't want to replace the poets. That's that when that stuff goes away, like our whole society crumbles. Like
Yep.
that's not what we want. I want to replace taking notes. Yes, that's cool. Or producing an output and agendas and outlines. We don't need to do that stuff anymore. That makes total sense. But I struggle with, what do our kids do in their future careers, and how do you preserve the artistic nature of marketing and art and just in all those topics that we can't do truly on a computer 100%.
And I think it's super interesting to see that happening with the AI companies themselves. So like Claude, for example, I think I posted about this earlier this week or last week. Claude came out and said, hey, we're going to slow down the evolution of our AI models. And we're doing it on purpose because about 80% of our model right now is being built by AI by itself. And the humans are actually only being like the fact checkers, basically.
Right.
And we don't know what that means for society. And we would encourage every other AI model to really step back and think about what we're doing to society as a result of what it is that we're building. And if we are optimizing and changing humanity in such a significant way that we do lose our self-expression.
Yeah, I'm concerned about it. Honestly, it's one of the biggest things that I'm personally thinking about, because we have this 7-person killer creative team, and they're absolutely brilliant and they do amazing work, and they're literally the best in the business, and why they were all handpicked to do this, to do this creative thinking. And you often hear our peers say things like, oh, well, we can literally just use AI to do everything. And you're like, good luck. I think, again, I really stand true. It's the C- players' easiest way to try to get to that bigger league. And I think it's dangerous. And I want to see more education. I want to see more training. I want businesses to actually take it seriously, how they create, their own ecosystems to learn their brands, to help them go faster. But I think I don't think we get it. I think we're so, it's lazy. That's where I stand.
I know. It's, and this is one place where I don't think we disagree, but we have slightly different opinions on why somebody's using AI. I think it's very interesting that we have adopted something so fast that replicates a human conversation, and not just professionally, but also personally, like the amount of AI girlfriends and boyfriends and partners that exist now. It's a little scary, but I mean, at the same time, a model is literally built to make you happy. And if that's what's going to make you happy and it fulfills that need, there's something about the use of AI and it being incredibly human that is also fulfilling, I think, a societal void that we have right now, that we've all been just in front of screens. And, as it pertains back to going to marketing, I would rather have a conversation with you, Jess, about what you liked about the thing than, ask Google, what are the reviews for this movie? It's a very
boring.
I know. I'd rather have an interesting conversation and also somebody to validate how I feel all the time. So, I definitely think there's components of absolutely, everybody suddenly thinks that they're A players and can get any answer from AI. But I also think that there's, a very large group of people who are like, oh, I get to have a conversation with somebody that I haven't had to be able to have because my screen is so one-sided up until this point.
I guess I could say what I want to see. It's like, can we get more of a playbook? Like when you were in college, you learned how to use MLA format, right? To build a paper. And if you were in AP Lit or Lang, shout out to really took that seriously. And I remember I used to get the living crap kicked out of me for not citing things properly and all that kind of stuff. And I think what I hope that we can return to is like, I want to hear, I want the research. I love a really good analyst that just hunts for those things and then can come back and go, hey, AI agent, I found this stuff. Can you help me go deeper? And then maybe that spits out something really profound,
Yeah.
that you take and you don't copy paste, you take it and you write it, you put it in an outline and then you create some rigor, and we just hired a head of the words, head of content. And we're really excited about it because I think we've been missing this, like,
since you've been inside of an organization, especially a more conservative one like a bank, and everybody's having pressure to use AI. 80% of marketers say they have extreme pressure to use AI for efficiency because their bosses want them to, because they want to say they're using AI. If you were to go back in 2026 and restart that department knowing AI existed, what would be your fundamental pieces that you would bring in and require to be able to have somebody adapt AI into a marketing org?
I think you got to train your dragon. So it's like a good Pokemon. You got to like you've got to have really good brand guidelines. You've got to have a great voice, a great tone. You got to know all your regs, right? I think honestly, I kind of wish we had AI back when I was running a marketing team at a gigantic $500 billion bank, because we were like using email to track stuff. Like that was wild. But what I would have loved is to ingest all our regulations that we cared about, right? It's the APR and how it needs to look, and rates as low as has to have this word, and all those triggers are noted so that as soon as you put in a created piece of copy, your agent's like, hold up, did you do the minimum required for X bank? And I think that would have helped our lives a lot. Also with the approval process, I got to believe that there's a better way to do it than the way we were doing it. And then, eventually we got to a CMS and we had an approval process that way. But I think that if you can know your rules and then put those rules into your agent, then it allows you to take work to the next level. And I still think it requires a human team.
Yeah.
To know what they're dealing with. And I think banks are super freaked out by it. They're like, not only banks, I think it's any super regulated industry is like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
At least from what we see.
Yeah, we have one client who, and we are doing this for Rosy Finch as well too, not just for Stealth Product 2.0, but for ourselves, who after having a deep compliance review ended up creating their own gated, we call it the brain of their organization to do those types of things. And not only are they like putting in all of the stuff that they build, but it's also listening. Like it's listening to their closed Slack channels. It's listening to their emails. It's learning what's approved and not approved. And then all of these agents sort of go outside of it and then give that feedback in real time, like talking to a human. And then all the agents have different names and they can all, they all do different stuff. There's a compliance one. There's a, that all do that first pass. But it's very interesting how intentional they have been in creating the repository of continuity and learning about their organization to get better, faster, smarter, stronger, but still very heavily require and have a brilliant marketing team with, amazing creators that still have to give that feedback, and they still have real developers, and they still have, real IT people. Like, those people are absolutely required to exist, to function, to keep them iterating and be real.
Right. I think there is a lot of chatter about teams being completely eliminated, and I'm looking at you, Meta. You got rid of everybody. Guess what? We have no way to talk to anybody. It is literally the robots are controlling all of it, and it's wild.
Please help.
Please help. If anybody works at Meta, call me.
Please call us.
Put our phone number on the screen. But I think it's like, I literally was having a conversation with a girlfriend recently who was saying, like, oh my God, it's just so cool, because I know in a few years I'm going to lose my job, like maybe 4, because I'm helping to train the future of the company. And then she was eliminated 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And I think the consequence of that is she trained her machine, her agent, to replace herself. But then, is it really working? And I would say, Mark, it's not working. We're having a really hard time with it. I think agencies around the world are going, WTF, I can't get in touch with someone, and it sucks. And so I do think that brands still have to have a salesperson, Colton, who calls you and says, Jess, are you spending enough, and do you know how to do this? And I think we appreciate that human touch, because we're humans. We crave it.
Yeah. And I think, to add to that point, Zuck, Google's still doing that. We still talk to Google reps all the time, and they have Gemini, which is way better than your model. Sorry, not sorry.
We're going to cut the part out.
No, we're not.
Or we not. We don't know.
Sorry, not sorry is a new clip for everything we're doing. But I think, to that point too, just, we work with a ton of B2B. Like, we work with a ton of B2B clients, and people like B2B, B2 government. Like, we really focus on the more complex sales cycles for a lot of things. And I don't know about you, but I feel like every time we've had a client try to remove the human and say, it's just going to be AI, or it's just going to be automated. I had this conversation when I was at Main Street before AI was a thing. Like, Salesforce's chatbot is just going to do the customer service. No, it's not. These are complex decisions, and a human is required. So do you ever think there's going to be a point, because I don't, that the human is not required in more complex sales cycles?
I think it'll be hard, but I don't want to say it won't happen, because I do believe that there are instances where you don't want to necessarily communicate, right? If you're resetting a password, or you're resetting something within your account, like, maybe you don't necessarily need to talk to your sales agent. But I do feel that, from what I'm observing, is that AI is moving so quickly that I believe everybody needs to have a strong foundation of how to prompt and how to actually talk to your agent, so that you don't get replaced. Because I do think that, like, maybe there will be a Jessica 2.0, which might be kind of cool. Customers will never have to deal with me.
I'm pretty sure that the idea of replacing our brains is the premise for our stealth product.
Literally.
We
are literally going to try. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I want a customer has to talk to me all the time. I think if they got to self-serve, we all like a good self-serve. I think there are examples of brands doing tremendous work in that area, but I do think there are many brands that are just screwing it up, and it's a tricky balance. So we'll see. We'll record in 6 months the update.
You are all screwing it up. Please stop.
Please stop doing that.
And please never send me a ChatGPT rendered email again.
Right. We will run your emails through our platform, our checker. We have become infamous for running emails and conversations through this checker. But here's the sad part, though. Every time we run an email or we run a presentation through an AI checker, we always find out it uses AI. And then what?
I know. And then what do
What are
you
you going to do? You're going to get rid of everybody? Not going to talk to anyone? Like, unfortunately,
I mean,
screwed.
and I think to that point, though, it comes back to having brilliant people on the team who are brilliant prompters. So
yeah, that's true.
What can marketers do now to get comfortable with the idea of learning how to articulate their vision and their strategy via prompting?
I think there's some great programs out there that can kind of give you the basic fundamentals. And then you've got to make like your list of your 5 to 10 things that you're going to start outsourcing to help your job get easier. So I think we're now seeing that with our operations team. Like, wow, you made that? No, I put it in my agent. It looks really cool. It's an agenda. It tells you what's pending. It pulls reports from our, project management, which you can do through Asana or you can use through Monday or whatever. That's easy stuff. That's stuff you should do. I think there's a lot of badass HR tools now. Like, I would be scared if I was in HR at this point. Like, I think team management, people management, hours tracking, all that stuff, like, it's there. It exists in those tools. But I think a marketer also needs to start to deepen their understanding of how to be found on AI. That would be my one thing. I don't care about all the other stuff, but if you can make sure that you are being found by an LLM, that's your homework.
Yep.
Do that one thing and it'll help your brand. And I think we've said in the beginning, we're now going back, we're going full circle. Like, it's about offline, it's about reviews, it's about testimonials, it's about content. It's always about content. And I think going back to how you are being found and trying to make those incremental changes is huge. We're so passionate about this, Brittany.
We can do this all day. We opened with HubSpot losing 140 million visits. But here's really what we want you to take from that. It's not punishment for doing things wrong. It's a penalty for staying the same when everything else is moving.
So don't leave the episode with a new tool to buy. Leave with a question. If AI described your brand to your best customer tomorrow, would you recognize yourself in the answer?
And if you can't answer that, and I think almost more importantly, if you don't know what others are saying about your brand, you know what to work on. And honestly, that's the whole season.
If this was worth your time, send it to someone who's still optimizing for a game that's already over. Like, comment, share, and tell us in the comments, what's the first thing in your playbook you're letting go of?
And don't forget to stay growth curious.
See you in the next one.